So I've been thinking a lot about this topic of grace recently. It's certainly a time for grace, isn't it? We, as the intensity of 2020 just increases and increases, we have a reason to need grace in our lives. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what grace means to me. At the same time, as I've been thinking about this, uh, a God wink happened. I turned towards the bookshelf near my bed, and I picked up this book, thinking that there may be some wisdom in here. And some of you may have heard of this book, The Road Less Traveled by Scott Peck. And thinking, I wasn't sure exactly if I was going to talk about grace or not, but I opened the very front of the book, and it says, "To my parents, Elizabeth and David, whose discipline and love gave me the eyes to see grace." That's all he says on this opening page. And then I realized that I had never read the whole book before, and that the last 10 chapters or so, 85 pages, are all about grace. And what a mini grace that was for me, or God wink. And that happens to me a lot. And that's one of the ways that I notice that grace touches my life. And the author of the book, Scott Peck, uses the term serendipity. And that's defined as events that happen by chance in a happy or beneficial way. Events that happen by chance in a happy or beneficial way. But I don't think they're by chance. They begin with God winks. And if you haven't heard the term God wink, it's this, I call it a mini moment of grace, or synchronicity, or serendipity. 1111 is one of my favorite numbers, and it seems that every time I look down at my iPhone, 1111 is there, and I don't know why. And I take a screenshot of it every time that happens, so I have hundreds of screenshots just this year of 1111. Someone calls you. Here's another example of grace. Someone calls you just when you were about to call them. You ever had that happen? Someone texts you just when you were thinking of them. That's a God wink. And for those of you who are still doing taxes and have a tax extension, you may know the frustration of taxes. And I couldn't find this one document that I needed. And I went into this room where there must have been 50 boxes. I was so frustrated one night, thinking I'm never going to find this document. And there's a pile of paper on the floor. I looked down, and right on the top is the document that I need. That was such a God wink, once again. A couple of days ago, I was talking with my boss, and she said, "Hey, did you get the results of that second COVID test yet?" And I said, "No." And then all of a sudden, right at that moment, bloop, I said, "Well, wait a minute. They just came in, and they were negative." That's a God wink. And another aspect of grace that's interesting is the protection, the protective qualities of grace. For any of you that have raised a child, you know that, the saying, God watches over babies and drunks. You know that, especially teenagers, the moment those teenagers hit the freeway and they're driving around doing all these crazy things, and we think with all of our wisdom after all these years, it's dangerous enough for us, but with a teenager, they don't even know what to look out for, and they come home safe. Most of the time, this happens. Defying the odds, all these crazy teenagers and all the crazy people on the freeway, that there aren't more accidents than there are. To me, it's grace, especially when you think of it in the aspect of all of the accidents that we almost had, but we didn't have. All of those almost moments where just in the nick of time, grace saved us. And grace is bigger than that. So the definition of grace generally is a gift from God that is unmerited or undeserved. It's given to you freely. It's for you. It's the unconditional outpouring of love from God, where you realize this blessing of God puts you in a state where everything can be thought of as a miracle. I think that's the real message behind whether it's the God wink or whether it's these bigger moments of grace. Everything is a miracle. Nothing is a miracle, right? We live in a world of miracles. I looked further for words about grace, and I looked back and did a search. You can do a search on the Daily Word app for any word that you want to. And there, you can search all the way back to I think it's 1935. Someone maybe will correct me there. And from the Daily Word, I do not have to do anything to prove myself worthy. Grace is available within each of us unconditionally. Grace has always been active in my life. I accept grace as the ultimate gift of perfect love, and I give thanks for its original blessing active in me. I give thanks for its original blessing active in me. Grace. I think that's a beautiful definition. So it's something that is God's unconditional gift to you, regardless of what you've done, regardless of whether you think you deserve it, regardless of acts, regardless of anything. It's given to everyone freely and fully, right where you are. In The Road Less Traveled, Scott Peck talks about, right when he starts his chapters on grace, he talks about the song Amazing Grace. And the interesting thing about the song Amazing Grace is it begins with the word amazing, because when grace happens, it is amazing. Because grace does happen when we begin to lose hope, right? It begins to happen when we need it the most. It happens sometimes in the nick of time. And something wonderful happens, right? I've got a book sitting next to me called Pronoia. That's, no, not something awful is going to happen, but oh my God, something wonderful is going to happen. That is God's grace too. A profound example of grace for me was when I was working a couple of different jobs. And this happened, they were during the beginning of my marketing days, and I was just having a kind of a bad relationship with the job, where I was not feeling that I was delivering the value that I should, and I can tell they were not feeling that I was delivering the value that I should, and I felt like so frustrated. My ego was hurt because I was thinking, my ego was attached to the job, and I thought to myself, they're going to fire me, but I want to quit at the same time. So it was this mutuality of not working. So I decided to walk away, to resign in both of these conditions. And what happened next? It was freaky that the right job, the right recruiter was looking for someone like me at exactly that moment. And I got the job of my lifetime. The first one was when I got the job at eBay that I loved. I just loved it. And the other one was when I found Coursera. It was beyond what I could have imagined was possible for people that I love, a boss I love. It was beyond what I could have imagined at that time. And I remembered it was just uncanny, the grace that was arriving in my life just in the nick of time too. So these other relationships had to fall apart in order for this new job relationship to say hello. Grace is also the story of the prodigal son. And I resonate with this story, or the story resonates with me because I'm a twin. The prodigal son who goes away and squanders his father's fortune, squanders everything, and they think that the brother and the father think that the son is dead. The son comes home after years, and he receives everything from the father. He receives the father's welcoming embrace. And when the jealous brother says, why are you giving him everything? Why are you giving him the keys to the kingdom. Why are you giving him these things when I deserve them and he doesn't? He squandered everything. And the answer was, the father said, we had to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours was dead and is now alive. He was lost, but now he's found. Does that sound familiar? He was lost, but now he's found. And that directly inspired the lyrics of the first verse of Amazing Grace. I once was lost, but now I'm found. So how do we cultivate grace? I'm going to end with a few thoughts on this. One is we listen and we become more aware of the blessings through God winks, through all these God winks, and inviting in these synchronicities, being aware of the synchronicities that are already happening, which are not really synchronicities. They are correlation of events that is meant to be. They're not accidents. Next, we leave the door open and we ask and we invite more grace to come into our lives. That's how Scott Peck ends his book. We can either deny grace or we can welcome it into our lives, knowing that when we least expect it, it's going to be there, knocking on our door in small ways or in big ways. There's a poem by Rumi that ends this way: that which you are seeking is also seeking you. So grace will find you. Grace will find you. That job will find you. That opportunity will find you. And it may find you in bigger ways than you even expected and asked for. Ralph Waldo Emerson, who Charles Fillmore, one of our co-founders, really admired, Ralph Waldo Emerson said, even in the mud and the scum of things, something always, always sings. I'll say that again. Even in the mud and scum of things, something always, always sings. It reminds me of that lotus flower. That lotus flower that survives and thrives in the mud and then makes the journey all the way up to the top of the pond. And so this mud and this scum that we're in right now, the condition of this mud and this scum, right? It's getting muddier and scummier as 220 goes along. This is the condition upon which, out of the darkness, this light of grace will shine. That's what the Taoists believe, right? Just when you think it can't get any worse, the appearance of grace will start to shine like a small guiding star and get brighter and brighter. So I'll conclude by saying, I don't think that we are in this time by accident. I think that we chose to be in this crazy time because we chose to be active and we chose to be participants in whatever is going to happen in this moment. So instead of being passengers and observers to what's happening, instead of just being recipients of the grace, we get to be points of grace. We get to be emissaries of grace in other people's lives. So how can we be a blessing into someone else's life? How can we be an emissary of grace on this planet? It's up to you. It's just touching one life, right? And so that's how I'll close, is just by saying, invite grace into your life and then be an emissary and turn around and pay it forward, as the movie says. So let's pray. Let's go within for a moment. So as we feel grace surrounding us right now, just feel the gratitude and the awareness that we live in a realm of grace. We live in a realm of miracles, and we just have to open our eyes and see. And then we can partner with grace. dancing with grace, opening the door to greater and greater grace in our lives, which is our unconditional gift from God. You don't have to prove yourself worthy in any way. It's for you. It's for you. And when you feel in doubt and you least expect it, grace will find you. So let it be. Just let it be. Let grace find you. I'm so grateful for this truth. I'm so grateful for this awareness. I'm grateful for the grace that touches all of our lives. And so it is. Amen.